What is up, y'all? Welcome back to another video series, and in this one we are going to be talking about LLM application development. So if anyone out there has an idea for a product or an app or maybe just a feature that is going to be using an LLM, well then you're in the right place. Also, if anyone out there is not interested in technology at all and bored and just following along, well, happy to have you too. But either way, before we go forward, let's go ahead and just talk about the project that we're going to be working on throughout this series. So for the last little while, I have been working on this website right here, thenewboston.com. And right now it's pretty simple, not a lot of features. Of course, you have your main feed right here, your profile that everyone has that you can go and see all their posts. Again, pretty standard stuff, nothing really inspiring, I would say. However, I had this idea for another feature, which is, I'll call it a university section. Basically, the idea is that on the left menu, there would be something like university where you click on, and when you click on it, you can see all the videos that I ever made, all my courses, and then you can, of course, click into one to watch that video. So I envision it looking something like this, where when you click into video, of course, pretty standard, you have the video player on the top left, and then the list of all the other videos in the playlist on the right. And right here is pretty much the feature that we're going to be working on through this series. So under the video, I thought it would be cool to develop an LLM, kind of like a chatbot, which I intend on calling Aya, by the way. I really like that name. Now, the purpose of Aya is kind of going to be like a coding assistant. So if the user comes in and they ever have a problem with their source code, or maybe they have a question about the video, then they can go ahead and just type it in right here, hit enter, and then Aya is going to be able to respond with the answer. So that is kind of the problem that we're trying to solve. However, I will say that even though I'm sure whatever application you guys are developing is going to be different than this, maybe you want to develop an LLM app that isn't even a chatbot and something else, no fear, all of the concepts that we cover in this video are going to be applicable to that as well. Because what we're going to be doing in this series is basically taking an idea for something that an LLM can solve and first seeing if it's even possible for the LLM to solve it. And if so, we're going to be taking it and we're going to be basically training it or figuring out how to make the LLM better, smarter, and smarter. And in addition to just making our chatbot continuously smarter, we're also going to be looking at some different architectures and talk about the problems that they solve. And we're also going to be looking at some common scaling problems that people have as they build these apps and take a look at how to solve those as well. And by the end of this series, I'm hoping that you're able to walk away with the knowledge of really just how to build awesome LLM applications. So on that note, what do we need to get started? Where do we go from here? Well, the very first thing that I would recommend is before going any further in this video series, I recommend you check out this other video series, Prompt Engineering for Beginners, that actually Ian, one of my friends, put out on my channel. And this goes over all of the very basic concepts of like, what is an LLM, what is a prompt, all the basic stuff like that. Because in this series, I'm going to be taking things a little, I want to say a step further in using those concepts to build a production grade application. So again, if you're not familiar with prompting or this terminology just doesn't make sense at all right now, go ahead and check out this series. If you already have some experience, then let's just go ahead and move forward. So after that, what we need to do is go ahead and set up an account at PromptLayer. And by the way, this is pretty much has been my life recently. I wake up, go to work on PromptLayer, come home, work on the New Boston. So I am pretty familiar with all this software. Hopefully I'll be able to transmit a lot of this knowledge to you guys. But another thing that I want to point out is that once you sign up for PromptLayer, what you need to do now is you need to go ahead and add the API keys for whatever LLM providers you want to connect to. Now to do that, if you go ahead and click on this gear icon on the top right and scroll down a little bit, then you are going to see this section right here for API keys. Now I already added all of mine, but go ahead and add, again, like I said, whatever LLM provider API keys you want to connect to. I'm probably going to be using OpenAI and Anthropic for the majority of the time here. However, we'll play around with Cohere, Mistral, and the other ones as well. But either way, like I said, go ahead and add these if you have them. If not, don't worry about it for right now. And once they're all added, what we're going to do next is go over here to Playground, and we'll go ahead and click that. Now, the Playground, for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, it's a tool that allows you to make a single LLM request at a time. So here, let me just show you an example. And I'm sure you've seen this before if you played with like OpenAI's Playground. But for the system prompt, we can say you are an AI, and then we can create a new message similar to typing something into like ChatGPT or Claude to be like, what is the best dog? I don't know. Just a simple question right here. And then we can go ahead and run the request, and we can actually see in the advanced controls that it's sending it to OpenAI, but we can choose another LLM provider if we have those API keys. But either way, we get the request back, and then it's going to pop up in our request log right here. So we have it kind of like a historical log, but either way, that's what the Playground is for. So what are we going to be using the Playground for? Because we got to build this chat app right here. Well, the reason I like to start in the Playground is because I like to prove out the proof of concept first. Now, the problem that we're going to be solving is developing a chatbot that can pretty much act like a coding assistant and help people with their source code, programming questions, so on and so forth. And it sounds a little bit silly to prove out a proof of concept because if anyone's familiar with ChatGPT, we already know that yes, LLMs can indeed help with like programming questions, especially like very simple ones. However, for most people, they do in fact need to build out a proof of concept because you may have an idea for an LLM application that's a little bit more advanced than a chatbot. So for example, let's say I had an idea where I want to feed it a bunch of text and it responds with a structured JSON output. So I'll say spit out a JSON object where the key is score and the value is a random number. Okay, so I know it can answer basic questions, but can it actually spit out a JSON object? Maybe that's something that I want to test, and let's see if it can do it. So yeah, it looks like it was able to. And by the way, I know that using LLM to generate a random number probably isn't the most efficient use case for it. But either way, let's say that we had an idea that we wanted it to solve like unsolved problems in physics. So what is the nature of dark matter? Answer in one word. If you do not know, respond with unknown. All right, so now let's really push the limits and see if it's capable of this, solving problems that have never been solved before in physics. Okay, so we see now that this thing, as smart as it is, it does indeed have some limitations. So for our use case, which was just answering simple programming questions, it looks like we may be able to use this after all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to recreate this prompt and I'm going to update it to say you are an AI coding assistant. Your job is to help people with programming questions. And then what we can do to test this out is we can give it a really simple programming question. Maybe we'll like give some source code, leave a semicolon out or something. And actually to do this, what I like to do is actually use ChatGPT and I'll say generate the most basic HTML web page possible. And I just want to give it a prompt to generate some very simple HTML, because then what I can do with this is copy it, or you can use this button right here. And then I'll say as my prompt, what is the problem with this? Kind of just to simulate something that a user would be asking. And then under there, I'm going to paste the source code for that HTML. However, here, I'm gonna remove this 1// so there is actually an error now. The closing bracket is a little bit messed up. So now I'm gonna go ahead and run this request and see if it can solve this coding related problem. And I'm guessing that it can, or at least I hope that it can, but let's see. Okay. The issue with the code is the closing HTML tag is messed up. Here's the correct code. Beautiful. Okay, so now I have my proof of concept, even though it's only one request and, well, it can only answer this one specific HTML related question. What I'm going to do is this. Now that I have a very simple template, I want to store this, and this part is going to stay the same no matter what. However, the user's questions are always going to be different. Maybe one person asks a question about HTML, maybe another person asks a question about Python, so on and so forth. So I want to make this part variable so we can inject different values into here. However, before I get to that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to this registry, and I'm actually going to open it in a new tab just so I have both of these right here. But I'm going to go ahead in this registry. Now from here, what I want to do is I want to create something called a prompt template. So I'm going to go ahead and click this button right here, create templates. And you see that this looks very similar to the playground right here. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy the system prompt and paste it in my template. And then I'm going to create a new message just like I did before. However, instead of pasting this in, which would be basically whatever the user is going to type in, I am going to add a variable instead. Now to add variables in this template, what you can do is you can use a single bracket and just, I'll call the variable like question or something. And this is basically going to be the placeholder for whatever question that they ask. So this is how you can make them. And this is an f-string template. If you ever worked with f-strings in Python, this bracket syntax is going to look familiar. However, even though this is going to be a valid template, what I want to do is I actually don't want to treat this as an f-string, and instead I want to use Jinja2. And this is why. So whenever we use f-string, you see that the variable notation are these single quotes. Well, a lot of the time when people ask questions, especially like programming or JavaScript related questions, they often paste in JSON. And JSON, of course, as you know, uses those single brackets. So sometimes whenever you use JSON with f-string templates, the system can get a little bit confused. So anyways, that's why I'm using Jinja2 syntax, because instead of single brackets for variables, it uses double brackets, and the concepts are all the same. It's just a little bit easier to work with JSON. So last thing before I create this template is I'm just going to give it a name. And I'll say something like IA assistant. All right, so IA assistant, this is going to be the name of my template that I'm going to be able to pass a question into and then get a response. So I'm going to go ahead and create that. Next, don't worry about this for right now. And there you go. So now we have a prompt template created. And we already saw one of the benefits of using a prompt template, which it basically allows us to create a prompt with placeholders in it or variables. And that way we can inject variable data into the prompt before we send it off to the LLM. So that's, a very useful concept. Another thing, and I'm sure you guys could have guessed this, but what we can do is we can use the PromptLayer API to pull down this template into our code and use it programmatically. So that's another benefit. And the third one, before we go any further, is, and this is kind of getting ahead a little bit, but we're going to be able to use this prompt template in our evaluations. And that just basically means, real high level overview, we're going to be able to figure out how to train our LLM to become smarter and smarter or more accurate over time. And we're going to be taking a look at that in probably another video, but just want to point out the benefit of this prompt template system here. Now, before I let you guys go, there is one other concept that I want to talk about in this video. And it's going to sound pretty boring, admittedly, but it is pretty important. And that's the concept of organization. So right now we only have this one template that we created. Again, far from disorganized. We can easily keep track of it right here. However, as we scale, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be building out more of these prompt templates. And once we have like a dozen or more, they get kind of hard to keep track of. So I'm going to show you guys how I keep track of them. However, this is probably going to be different depending on how you structure your project, but check it out. So on my website right here, I have these main sections like art section, contributions, notifications, so on and so forth. Now my source code, and I'm using Django for this, is actually structured very similar to that. I have art, contributions, the notifications, so on and so forth. So my folder structure resembles this closely. Now remember, I'm going to be adding a university section to here on my website, which means I'm also going to be creating a university app in my source code. So what I like to do is I like to structure my prompt templates with the same structure of my Django app, which means that if I go back to PromptLayer, I am going to go ahead and create a folder, and this folder structure is essentially going to mimic these folders. And I do that because whatever app uses that prompt template, that's where I'm going to store it. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a folder now called University. And I'm going to go ahead and create that folder, you see. And then after, I'm just going to move this to the University folder. And then if I click in there, you can see that my template is right there. Just helps to keep things a little bit more organized. Now, another thing that I want to point out is that I often have prompt templates that are used across multiple apps, kind of like generic or general templates. And for that, I like to keep those in a folder called General. So we're not going to be creating any prompt templates for here yet, but we're going to be in a future video. So I figure might as well create the folder now. But either way, yeah, I think that's probably pretty good for this video. In the next tutorial, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be getting into the really interesting stuff, which is how do we evaluate this? Or in other words, how do we train it to make it smarter and smarter? So it's going to be fun. Looking forward to it. I'll see you guys in the next video.